Hello everyone and welcome back to another WARNO guide video. Today we're gonna cover all ranked maps, all the dual maps that are gonna be in the WARNO rank pool for season 1. And yeah, I'm gonna plan to make a guide whenever like this, updating it whenever there is a new map pool for ranked, which will be with future seasons. So yeah, and how do we gonna structure the guide? First, I'm gonna cover the strong points on each map. Then I'm gonna cover the best strategies for airborne / forward deploy divisions, and then infantry divisions, and then tank divisions. What the best strategies on each map for these 3 different kinds of divisions are. Obviously, there are a couple of divisions that are in the gray area, and obviously, if you are in a mirror match, that might differ as well. And yeah, let me know down below what you think about these kind of strategies that I propose as well. And if you have other ideas, obviously share them with the community down below as well. And let's get started with the best of the dual maps in my eyes, especially after the rework here, Vertigo. And yeah, Vertigo, the most important points to capture are actually not directly the points themselves. The most important and strongest point on the map is this area down here. Like, that part of the map is just really, really good. If you have this, you can see and control a bit down here on both sides, especially see, not quite control, though the ATGM range there is quite good, and you can especially control up to the north down these roads here, and especially into this open gap as well. So controlling that space is really, really strong. So really try to focus on this, as if you can get there. That's pretty strong. And then another strong points on this map are these zones over these areas over here. They can cut off this southern zone completely as well, and attacking into these forests is really hard as well. So if you can get in there, they are really strong as well, and as are these tree lines here. Those are the 3 main areas out of which you can control the map. Tree lines always really strong. Obviously, these tree lines are similar, though a lot harder to get into, and also somewhat able to subvert them if you go around them. So they're not quite as strong as the others. But they were in the previous version, but they are still pretty good. So having those tree lines really is the focus of the game, and you should focus on those things a bit more even than focusing on the zones themselves. So let's talk about what to do when you're on either side here with a forward deploy division, and that is, if the enemy is no forward deploy division, going for this area. Both sides get there at the same speed. Eugen checked that really well. It's 56 seconds for both sides of forward deploy there, and if the enemy only has normal recon deploy or weak forward deploy, you can win that fight there every single time. So try to go for that with your forward deploy units. Try to secure that point to push out of it, and then also the Delta is a good point to go into with forward deploy infantry usually, especially as you can reach this zone here, this part, relatively fast from the right side as well if the enemy doesn't have forward deploy, and cut them off out of their zone and fire into them this way. And that's the forward deploy. When it comes to infantry divisions, obviously if the enemy has forward deploy, you can't really get in here. If the enemy doesn't, you should focus on this part of the map decently as well. But otherwise, for both sides, you want to win the fight around the south. It's decent infantry country here. It's really good infantry country in Delta. So try to go for that and try to win these 2 points, because the way you get a take on this map is usually by either having Delta, Charlie, and the upper zone, or pushing through the north by capturing both points here, leaving them to and then taking the enemy rear zone, or then contesting one of these 2 zones later on. So going for Delta and Charlie means that you even can lose Bravo. You should still, or Alpha, as the red side, you should still try to go for Bravo, and as the blue side, try to hold Alpha as long as possible and have a defensive setup there. But capturing Charlie and Delta then gives you the tick, and that's what you should go for. These 2 zones here, as they are pretty good infantry country. When you fully control them, you have good buildings for ATGMs over there. And up north, you can hold decently with ATGMs as well, but pushing over the open is quite hard without vehicles. And that's exactly why armored divisions should go for the other thing in this and should try to push through Bravo as the blue side and all the way into Charlie if possible, or cutting off the enemy down to the south here and taking Delta then after you cut it off. And from the other side, obviously, same way around. Same thing, just the other way around. Pushing through Bravo into Alpha, and then either threatening Foxtrot or going down the tree line and cutting off Delta. Though this is a bit longer here, but it's a bit easier to get into Foxtrot in my eyes than it is to get into Charlie, but it's a bit easier for blue side to cut off the south than it is for the red side. So, yeah, both of these are viable strategies for... Like, this is the one I would go for with armored. Obviously, you have to vary it a bit. If you're too predictable, it's quite easy, but that's the basic 3 strategies for the different kind of types of divisions that I would recommend on this division. And yeah, really have a focus on these hardpoints. So yeah, let's move on to the next map. And the second map is Black Forest, a map which is a bit asymmetrical, so we will have to talk about that a bit when we talk about the sites and the strong points there as well. And this map is a bit more focused on the zones when it comes to strong points. A couple of strong points on this map are for sure the building area around Foxtrot, like this area, this point is nice to control into this direction and also control into all of this direction. So yeah, if you lose that, flattening the building is not a bad idea to prevent the strong point from enemies. Then obviously up north at Charlie, we have a strong point as well with the buildings of Charlie. Everything there is a strong point basically. So that's for sure something that you need to be careful of as well. And then another strong point are these buildings over here, which have a lot of zone of control into that direction. And these buildings over here, which are quite good as well. They have a good amount of control into this area as well. And keep the enemy out of Alpha or allow you a stepping stone into the Alpha zone. So they are pretty good in that regard as well. And yeah, the other buildings here all pretty strong as well. Really the standalone buildings that have a lot of line of sight, Gary for ATGM positions. The 3 lines here on this map decent as well, but the buildings more prevalent in the position that they have. Obviously, something that you have to be careful of is the whole northern area, but they are not really a strong point. Just what you have to be careful of if you give up the north is that you have something to block back here to prevent enemy from sneaking around you. And the same on the other side in blue. If you are back, if you want to block something with something around here, and then also back here to just prevent the enemy from getting to your spawn and getting through the roads here into getting kills onto your spawn road. Like, those are not really strong points, but more points of interest there. And so let's talk about strategies on this map. And with Airborne, Charlie is somewhat imbalanced here. The right side is faster there out the buildings, though with the left side you can get there quite quickly as well. On the other hand, Foxtrot in my eyes is still slightly left side favored, and Bravo is easier to get into for the left side than Alpha is for the right side. So with Airborne divisions from the left side, you still want to try to get into Charlie if possible. Like, if that is possible at all, you still want to get in there. But if the enemy obviously has good forward deployment as well, you need to be careful there. So that is something there. But yeah, trying to get into Charlie. For sure, get into Bravo and take these buildings blocks if you're forward deploy on the left side. And then also try to get an ATGM into Foxtrot if you have forward deploy ATGMs or an infantry unit and then an ATGM follow-up to try to control Foxtrot. But yeah, Bravo is your most important point from the left side. And then from the right side, the most important point is Charlie for blue. You want to get up here and secure these buildings, especially the high-rise, where you then have a perfect line of sight onto everything coming in. And then secure these buildings here. Don't go directly into Alpha, but secure the outskirts and then maybe push into it later, or at least have ATGMs that shoot down these lanes here in the south. That's pretty good as well. And then you can also go for Foxtrot, grab that building, and have a strong point there as well, and get a tick onto the enemy, which on this map, every bit of tick that you get is pretty important. Even with the 2-point zones moving up a bit, it's still not that easy to get there. So ticks that forward deploy divisions can get early on, pretty strong here. With infantry divisions, Charlie still important. Obviously, from the right side, you should still go up there if you're up against another infantry division or armored division and grab that. Otherwise, it is around Bravo and Alpha where you want to fight with the infantry divisions. If you're coming in from the right side here, you really want to push through here into Alpha, get these areas as well to prevent the enemy from having too many vehicles here, and then just pushing in with infantry in here and have a big infantry grind in this part of Alpha. And the enemy, if they have weaker infantry, then you will have a tough time. And they're cutting it all off with ATGMs around here from these buildings to block up to the north and to block down to the south is pretty important as well. And then, yeah, Charlie is the other point that you want to contest. So you really want to focus on this triangle here on the map. Whilst with Armored, you want to focus on the southern part of the map. You still want to hold your Alpha or your Bravo. As infantry from the left side, as said, I would focus on Bravo. But yeah, with Armored, you still want to focus on Alpha or Bravo, but you really want to play it more through Foxtrot. Like, as Armored from the left side, you go through Foxtrot, and then you want to threaten this link between Delta and Bravo by shooting in there, and then push into Bravo from here. And maybe even go for the full circle to attack the reinforcement through Delta, pushing the enemy even further north. And that's the same thing as true for the right side with an armored division. You want to go through the south, through Foxtrot, and then either directly strike towards Echo and focus the enemy on having a terrible fight over here, or strike north then and also try to attack the link around Alpha. You also have a bit of room of maneuver now here, though that's still a lot of coverage that the enemy can strike you from. And obviously tanks got a bit better around Charlie, but they're still not great there. Like, yeah, in a tank versus infantry fight, you still don't really want to be there. If you can sweep it nicely and then can either get to this tree line as blue or as red, get like these points here covered, then you can shoot down the reinforcement routes quite nicely. But it's not that easy as a tank division, so I wouldn't risk it too often. That's just an extra there. So yeah, this is Black Forest. Let's talk next about let's talk about the next map, which we're gonna see in a second. Yeah, next map being Two Lakes. And on Two Lakes, the strong points are pretty clear. The strongest points are the two towns. That's Zulu and Oscar up here. And then some extra points being these two little bocages outside of each zone that have great buildings for ATGMs. And to a lesser degree, this area over here, which obviously is a good staging ground into Zulu, but also into Lima. So it's a pretty important point for sure as well. And then the same thing goes for this village up here, which blocks everything coming from Oscar to X-Ray or the other way around. So this sector of the map, pretty important as well. If you can get in there quickly, You can stop pushes towards Oscar, or as X-Ray, either threaten Oscar and also protect X-Ray at the same time. So those are the strong points here. Really a bit of a more straightforward map in general. And yeah, when it comes to what you want to do as for deployment, it's pretty simple as well. Try to get into the enemy's town. So if you're red, try to get into Oscar here and try to get in here and threaten the enemy reinforcement road via this point and then push through. That's obviously one here. And then for blue, it's the other way around with Zulu. Get through it, through the south here into Zulu. Get in here, push up here, maybe to have a line of sight for ATGMs and all up to these roads, or push through here and then attack it from down here into this road. That's pretty classic, pretty standard here. With infantry divisions and tank divisions, the map has like a big split in the middle that goes through here. And the infantry divisions want to focus on the south of that, and the tank divisions usually win the game further north of it. Though, like, you can pivot into either as well, but infantry divisions, both red pushing into Lima here, being the idea, through Zulu and through this more close combat area over here, whilst from the other side, for blue side, it's pushing into Zulu. That is the plan here, with infantry divisions, with maybe some IFC supports with a lot of smoke and so on. And then up north, it's more tank country, with red side obviously trying to push through here, covering the open ground, covering the reinforcement road, maybe pushing around here to cut this off as well, and then getting Oscar. And then from the other side, when you push out of Oscar, trying to threaten X-Ray, or pushing south into threatening Zulu from the rear, and like pushing in here maybe as well. Like that's where you can attack Zulu now as well. So that's what you want to do with tank divisions. Obviously, another big factor on this map is artillery. What you can do, for example, is as a tank division, even if the enemy is in Zulu, you just flatten it outright. If you have rocket artillery, you just destroy the whole town, and then you drive with tanks through it. I have seen that a couple of times, done it myself as well, especially with something that has a FOB or FSP, like 79th and some good old Kratz. And yeah, that can work as well. Obviously, a bit more of a defensive strength focus. That's why as a forward deploy division, you really want to get into the enemy town early on, because later you won't get in there. And yeah, this is Two Lakes. Pretty classic, but still can have some interesting games. So let's move on to the next map, with the next map being Airport Duel. And Airport Duel has two really important areas, which is, one is the airfield, and the other being the town up north. With the area down here having a zone, sure, but it's usually not the focal point of fighting. And there in these areas we have, when we look at the airport, obviously on the red side we have this area over here with these buildings, and then on the blue side we have these buildings over here that are pretty important. All those buildings being the focal point of the fighting, and you want to fight over that control quite hard. Both sides having some chances to getting into the other one's line as well early on, so it's gonna be heavily contested. And then up north in the town, on the red side, you have that's the blue. On the blue side, let's talk about that first. Especially this skyscraper here, being able to fire TGMs into the enemy, really important. That skyscraper really strong. And further up north, you often as blue control this village, and maybe this blue area, blue controlling this forest here, shooting down is also pretty strong. And then on the red side, you have the same kind of high rise that can fire ATGMs. It's not quite as strong, but still a good one. And if you control into this forest, obviously this is really strong as well, though quite hard to get into this building here. Pretty important as well though, and you can get it in a bit there easier, shutting down the road here in the south. But blue can shut down a bit this road as well here from there. So this building, pretty important as well. Those are the ones that you should focus on in the town. And see as really risky if the enemy gets in there. And yeah, if we talk about strength of fort and what you should do as fort deployment is one, no matter if red or blue, try to get into Zulu. Zulu here up north, getting in there pretty good. So that is the first thing. And then as red side, you should try to get into territory in Echo and potentially shoot down the enemy here with ATGMs out of there. And also try to secure some stuff in Foxtrot to prevent the enemy from doing the same to you. And on the other side, as for deploy division of blue, you should obviously do the same in reverse and just push into Foxtrot and shoot the enemy down from over here. If you can get up to these buildings, even better, though that's quite unlikely, but at least getting into this building over here and then threatening the enemy from there is sometimes possible. Sometimes you still fight down here and then obviously grab your stuff here as well. Maybe even up to here, shooting ATGMs here, shooting ATGMs north, or at least seeing everything there. No, you don't always get an ATGM in there, but like having good infantry there that makes pushing closer, having good recon in there is good as well. Like ATGMs is always the dream that you want to have in the end. You don't always get it there immediately. And then also secure your high-rise buildings and on each side early to prevent the enemy from pushing there too easily, and maybe sneak some infantry AT close to the enemy as well to disrupt their deployment around Zulu and the northern town. And then afterwards, it's between tanks and infantry. It's once more a split that goes north of the airfield, with infantry wanting to focus a bit more on the town and pushing through Zulu and threatening Alpha or Papa even from there, and tanks really wanting to fight on the airfield. Obviously, both sides will have to respect both areas as well. You don't want to fully all in there, but tanks from blue side usually win their way by pushing through Foxtrot and pushing down into Bravo, and from the other side, from red, they win by pushing through Foxtrot into Echo, and behind Echo here into this area, capturing Bravo on the way. Zulu being a bit right side favored, Bravo being a bit left side favored here in general. So as reds with tanks, you should have Bravo safe. Blue, you want to attack it later on. But red wants to push maybe into Alpha, for sure capturing Echo. If you have all three and Papa, you're fine as well. And for the infantry, you want to fight around the north, and with red, you want to push through Zulu, threaten Alpha or threaten Echo, and then like if you can get into Alpha, that's pretty powerful. That's 5. If even if the enemy has just both all 3 zones in the south, then it's still a plus 2 for you. And yeah, usually you want to go Zulu, Papa, and then secure Bravo maybe, and have obviously some contests on Foxtrot, but don't push too hard here, just play defensive there. And then the same thing goes for the blue side that wants to push to the Zulu, wants to get in here, and also wants to hold Echo, which is a bit more infantry focused than the south. And yeah, hold that kind of area, threaten Papa, and maybe then if Papa doesn't work, go for Foxtrot, go for Bravo in some shape or manner. There's this southern route here where you can potentially come in as well, but that's a bit of sneak and a bit of map superiority that you have to get into Bravo that way. It's possible from blue sides though. So yeah, those are the ways that you play airport, and those are the strong points. Let's go for the next map, as we have only one remaining, and that's Mount River. So let's go. And we're here now on Mount River, the newest addition to the map rank pool. And yeah, with Death Row leaving us and Hesse not quite being ready for launch, it seems, in Eugen's eyes. Yeah, we are with these 5 maps in the rank pool, and Mount River can bring some interesting gameplay as well. It's more closer to 2 lakes than some of the others. So as you can see on the zoomed in level here, if we zoom out further, it has a lot of space actually, but it's a lot of dead space. The sides here, these are just for helicopter shenanigans and airplane shenanigans where you can fly around. You have a lot of airspace, so that is nice, but I wish there would be a road along the river here that you can still see from the other side, so you can intercept when anything moves fast there, but you have a incentive to go to the other side here, which currently doesn't really exist. Yeah, with that said, the map, when it comes to Strongpoint, is relatively straightforward as well. You have, first of all, X-Ray, obviously, which is just really, really good. And then next to X-Ray, you have this forest area down here, which is really threatening behind Papa and behind Alpha. When you can get into there and put a tank in there or an AT-gem, that's quite good. And then the same goes for this area here, shooting into the reinforcements towards X-Ray over here. Up north, it's obviously the 2 towns, this and this, that are the choke points. You want to hold your side of it really well and make sure that the enemy doesn't get into. And yeah, that makes the play when it comes to forward deploy also quite easy, as red side and blue side both want to get into X-Ray. X-Ray is super important, and as red side you want to threaten Papa or threaten the north, like, and get into the town. Like, those are the 2 options that you have next to X-Ray. X-Ray, I think, is a must as a forward deploy division against a non-forward deploy. And then on the other side, for blue, obviously going to Alpha, X-Ray, and the town in the north on the other side. So that's pretty clean as well. You, as red, might want to get into here as well, try to get that AT-gem position from the blue side. It's a bit harder to get into, but you still might get into, and then you have a building that shoots there even, and not just a forest, which is quite nice as well. So that's an interesting one too. And then when it comes to infantry, you want to get to X-Ray somewhat as well, because X-Ray is the most important part of the map, but it's quite hard to get into, so you might want to play around it a bit differently. As both sides for sure want to play around Alpha and Papa with infantry. Like, that's where infantry can push through the nicest. So pushing around here into this area is pretty important as well for both sides. And then you also might want to play around here in the north, and then go from towards X-Ray from the rear here through the south, either side, to get to threaten X-Ray. That's why if you don't get in there early. If you get in there early, that's nice. Then just hold it with ATGMs. And yeah, with tanks, obviously, it's the other way around. X-Ray is where you want to be. As this here is your perfect area. This here is pretty nice area as well. So if you control X-Ray, you can control the area around it nicely. And then you just have to find a way of holding Alpha and Papa in line. So that is what you want to do as a tank division here. Win X-Ray and then control the areas around it and make sure that you don't lose that. It's pretty clean, pretty straightforward. Artillery really strong on this map as well, as you have quite some choke points where a lot of forces can be concentrated. So especially MLR is fantastic on this map. And yeah, I like the new map. I hope we get Hesse soon in the pool as well. And yeah, I hope to see you all in the next one. Let me know down below how you like this video, what you would like to see improved for the future versions of this, as obviously I'm still learning here. And yeah, hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.